Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Mess. So, Derek and I got a fun and exciting episode for you guys this evening because a week ago, Dante Retro Dev updated Castlevania AGA, which is an Amiga remake of the original Castlevania, inspired, at least visual, by Castlevania Chronicles and the Sharp X68000 version as well. And if you know anything about the channel, you know I love me some Castlevania, so anytime we have a new game or a new port, I'm definitely going to talk about it. And the updates to this have been absolutely spectacular. Before you get involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel like supporting the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But I just love what's on display here, taking Castlevania and remaking it for the Amiga. And the best part is you can basically decide to play this game any way you want. You can play it on real Amiga hardware, you can play it on Windows, you can play it on MiSTer FPGA, which is obviously my preferred way to do it. There's packages for each and every platform you could possibly want. And this is just an amazing effort. Now it is definitely not a finished product. There are going to be some glitches here and there, and I do get it to hard crash once, but it is still in active development. And honestly, I just love talking about stuff like this on the channel because pretty much everyone has played the original Castlevania. Pretty much everyone has at least one favorite Castlevania game, so getting more Castlevania in all of our lives is something that absolutely no one could ever complain about. And I just love how the graphical stylings here actually translate over to the Amiga hardware. The new Simon Belmont sprite definitely has a fun vibe to it. Kind of reminds me of Castlevania Chronicles for the most part, but he feels like he maybe bulked up a little bit in the gym in between sessions. And you're going to see the original boss for level 1, the bat here, is intact. Seems like the sprite might be ever so slightly smaller than I remember, but maybe I'm just thinking about the Sharp X68000 version. You will see here that when I click the orb, the screen does wrap a little bit to give you this text, and once you hit the A button again, it'll go right back to where it needs to be. But this is just so much fun, and honestly the Amiga needs more stuff like this. Now, Amiga as a platform is not my favorite thing of all time, and it is one of my quote-unquote blind spots as far as retro gaming is concerned. I don't own any of the hardware, and I usually ask people what games I should be playing when it comes to Amiga, so if you do have any recommendations, leave me a comment down below. But this is great because I can use something like MiSTer FPGA and basically play real Amiga hardware implementation in FPGA without having to invest into all of the hardware, which is always a great thing. I'm sure this brings more people into the Amiga fold, and games like Castlevania AGA just give you more to do, because again, this port, even if it's work in progress, is so much fun to play because it really is just remaking the original Castlevania from 1986 in a modern lens. You'll see there the parallax scrolling of the background through those windows looks absolutely effective. This is the one time though that I was able to hard crash the game. It'll happen now and again, don't worry too much about it, just reset the system. But this is just such a visual treat. This looks better than pretty much any other Amiga game I've ever played, and I'm sure that's just down to a modern tool set here, but leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think the best looking Amiga game is for me. And this is definitely getting really close to the top. And the best part is the gameplay is 100% solid. You don't get knocked back as much when you take damage. Your sprite will kind of move left and right. There probably does still need to be a little work done in the overall damage aspect of the game, and some of the levels feel slightly too easy. I think the difficulty could go up a little bit, but otherwise this shows absolute promise, and I can't wait to see this get updated again and see what else comes. But just look at that parallax in the background, something you would never see on the NES version back in the day. And I'm leaving the loads in real time just so you see how long they take when you go to that black screen. And of course there's got to be flea men, there always are, but it feels like the patterns here are ever so slightly fairer and there's less flea men on the screen at once. I'm not sure if that's down to something with the Amiga hardware where they can't have that many sprites, but I'll tell you right now, in stuff like the X68000 or Chronicles version of this game, they load the screen up with a ton of flea men and it can be absolutely frustrating. But the other fun part is obviously the soundtrack needs to be pivoted over to Amiga sound hardware, and that is going to give you a completely different sound even if they are going to be tracks that you remember. So as soon as we take down Frankenstein's monster here, I'll let you listen to one of the most iconic tracks in Castlevania history running on Amiga hardware. But you'll see there the boss just feels maybe slightly too easy. But here is the music, it's different but the same. I love it, and I'll be right back. Iconic track, slightly different vibe, and that's kind of the takeaway of this overall remake. It is the iconic game you know, love, and remember. It is just a completely different vibe as far as the visuals, the sprites, and the music tone are concerned. And that's a fun thing. This kind of feels like a game that would have come out back in the day had the original Castlevania been remade for Amiga like it was for the Sharp X68000, and that is a high compliment to play. Basically, it feels like this could be a retail release outside of some of the glitches. And the other fun part is it has a full cheat menu as well with different keyboard inputs. You can restock your health, you can give yourself different sub-weapons, and kind of skip around in the levels. But I love this particular area here with the parallax. These chains and hooks in the foreground look so good. They really do look like they're right in front of the virtual camera. It's a small graphical touch, but it really sells the power of the Amiga handling a game like this. And the best part is the translated game is just as much fun as the original. All of the impacts, all of the weapons, all of the bosses still have the same good fun to them, just on a different system. And I love the level of gore in the background there with that corpse hanging. It definitely sells. You'll see that the screen transitions are a little bit rougher. I'm not sure if that's down to hardware on the Amiga or if it just hasn't been implemented yet, but when you do go through a door, the screen basically will just kind of jump to where it needs to be, and at the top of the stairs, trying to get off them every once in a while can present a little problem as well, because when I came up the stairs here, for some reason my sprite was facing the complete wrong direction. But I'm sure these things can be buttoned up because Dante Retro Dev has already done an amazing job with this. Obviously it's a passion project, and I can't wait to see what the next update brings. If anything, and I know it's his game, he can do whatever he wants, I would love to see a brand new level in something like this. See what his imagination brings forth within a remake of the NES Castlevania. Maybe it could just be a bonus level at the end, but I would love to see what he could do if he just let his mind loose and his creativity flow on a brand new section of the game. You'll see here that the patterns can be difficult as we get later on in the game, but that's where the fun and the charm of something like Castlevania really lies, the difficulty. And it wouldn't be a Castlevania game without a boss battle with death, and he definitely takes a lot of your health bar down, but it seems like maybe he takes less hits than the NES original. I'd have to watch a video and count, but again, not the hardest boss fight compared to what I remember it being, slightly more difficult. But I'm going to give you one more soundtrack sample because again, I just love hearing the Amiga replicate the music in Castlevania, so go ahead and listen just for like 25 seconds. I'll be back and tell you more about the port and what I hope comes next. Konami made such an iconic soundtrack for Castlevania, just really nailing the tone the first time out of the gate, and hearing it come across on the Amiga sound hardware is a fun time as well. Although I will say that the difficulty could be scaled a little bit because the clock tower there, you can basically just take damage from enemies, jump through them, and come out the other side pretty much with your life intact. But again, I love ports like this, and the reason I love them, not only are they hyper impressive, but they're absolutely unnecessary. We have the Sharp X68000 version, we have Castlevania Chronicles. There is no technical reason that you need Castlevania for the Amiga, except the fact that somebody loved the game enough to bring it here, improve on the graphics, and expand on the original gameplay, and I love celebrating stuff like that. Ports just because somebody wanted to see if they could do it, they loved a game and wanted to share that love with other people. So if you have a MiSTer FPGA, if you have an Amiga, or if you just want to emulate the Amiga on your Windows PC and play a brand new version of the original Castlevania, you can do that today. Now again, this is not finished work. You can crash it every once in a while, and there can be a few visual glitches, so what I really want to hope in the future is in like maybe the next 6 months or so, this gets buttoned up, they expand on the feature set, kind of change around the difficulty to give it that classic Castlevania hardness, and maybe throw some new levels or features in there just as a bonus. But we have defeated Dracula, his castle's going to crumble into the ground, and we are done. But the next time this has a fundamental update, I'll definitely do another video, because not only do I love Castlevania, I love fan mods that basically just give us more ways to have fun in games we know, love, and remember. But definitely check this one out. If you've already played it, leave me a comment with your thoughts down below, but we are done. Bye bye.